Hello again from my front porch. I have given my face a little bit of a vacation here. You may notice the stubble on my face here. I haven't shaved since last Friday, and so tomorrow will be a whole week. Yeah, it's starting to. It's gotten to the point where it's not really so rough anymore. It's just starting to get kind of soft. And I've sent some pictures to folks and to a few people showing the growth. And some people actually like it. And they say, oh, that's really great. You should keep that look. Well, I hate to disappoint you, but I'm not going to. Because, do you notice the color? Yeah, it makes me look older than I am. I don't mind looking my age. I like the age that I am. I don't like looking older than my age, and I feel like that's what this does. But so since I've had this stubble on my face, I figure I need to do, I needed to do front porch with it before I, ultimately shave it off here, which I probably will the next day or two. But before I shave, I had to do a front porch so you can see it. But if I'm going to do a front porch with stubble, the picture behind me might give you a cue. There is a very important stubble person that I want to talk about. That's right, Dr. Jones himself, Henry Jones Jr., Indiana Jones, the best stubble person in the business, complete with my bullwhip and everything here, see? Ooh, careful. I might not want to do more of that. I don't want to wind up with a scar on my chin like Indiana Jones gets. But maybe I'll just take this and lay my trusty bullwhip over to the side a little bit there. But hey, what I want to talk about is, since we're talking about Indiana Jones, or since I'm talking about Indiana Jones, I want to talk about the upcoming movie that's going to be coming out here this next year that we've started to already see some preview and some excitement around. And there are some people who get upset about it. Some people who poo-poo it, and they're like, old Indiana, what's he going to do? Walk around with a walker? It's going to be geriatric Jones. All this kind of nonsense. And, I got to tell you, if you're of that mindset, well, you're stupid. I'm sorry. You're ill-informed. You're ignorant. That's probably a friendlier way of saying it. But, I got the stubble. I'm Indiana Jones. Just call it like it is. But the reality is, we already know Indiana Jones lives to be a ripe old age, or at least I know that. You may not, because George Lucas himself sort of screwed that up. But before I get into that, let me talk a little bit about the controversy over the movies themselves, because this will be the 5th Indiana Jones movie, and now the angst is all about Harrison Ford's age, and he's too old to be Indiana Jones. Well, that's nonsense. But it's not the first nonsense that we've had. In fact, that came up with the 4th movie. That people were talking about that he was too old then. But the 4th movie, that just gets people to come unglued because it had aliens. Okay, time out. Let's just recap a little bit about who Indiana Jones is and what his journey has been to this point to help clarify a little bit of what's going on here. First of all, Indiana Jones was created based off of them looking back to the movie serials that used to be in the 30s and the 40s. Before there was television, before there was Netflix, and before there was streaming online, if you wanted to see visual things, you could listen to radio and the radio drama and stuff, but if you wanted to see visual productions, you had to go to the theater. And now, we're starting to see a little bit of this coming back, actually. If you go to a movie now and you go early, you'll see they have all kinds of stuff they show beforehand. Little previews, snippets, commercials, interviews, other kind of stuff like that. But back in the day, in the 30s and the 40s, when you went to the movie, it was an experience event. Yes, there was the main feature that you went to go see, but prior to that, there'd be all kinds of other stuff. There'd be 1 or 2 cartoons, those Bugs Bunny cartoons and Mickey Mouse cartoons, the little shorts that we like to watch. That's where they first came out. They were shown in the movie theater prior to a movie. But you had the cartoons that they would show. You had newsreel footage. A lot of, like in the 40s, we got into World War II, where you would get stuff like that. But it wasn't just World War II footage. There'd be other events because there was no national news to tune into on a TV. That's where you got it, was in the theater when they put it together. Stuff like that. But there was also these movie serials where there would be these action adventure drama stories. The Lone Ranger first appeared that way. Batman first appeared that way. All of the Captain America, all of these people that we now see on the big screen today, that we see all these movies of, they first made their big screen appearance in these movie serials. And what they would be 12 to 15 episodes, depending on the run and the company put it together. But they'd be like just short, little abbreviated, like 15 minutes maybe. And you would go to see the movie, and you would see episode 4 of this particular movie serial, of this storyline. And so, of course, the incentive was for you to keep going to the movie every week or so that you could watch the next chapter of this particular adventure. You could see this movie serial adventure. Well, as I said, a lot of characters we know today came up during that time frame, but there were a number of characters who showed up there that were just made up for that. A lot of them being cowboy, western kind of things, but also adventurer kind of things. Explorers, archaeologists, people exploring the mysterious and the unknown, but digging for things, very, very Indiana Jones, because that's where Indiana Jones came from, was that kind of a scenario from the theaters, that they took that and said, we want to bring that spirit, that feeling into a movie, and we're going to make this Indiana Jones. Well, actually, Raiders of the Lost Ark being the first one, where they go looking for the Ark of the Covenant with the headpiece that Abner Ravenwood has. Now this is not the one that they make from the Nazi guy's hand. No. This is the real one, because see, it's got the writing on this side and the writing on the other side that says to take one kedem back to honor the Hebrew God for whom the ark was made. And so this that's the real deal, baby. This Indiana Jones, he has the real deal here. But so that movie comes out, and it's a smash hit, and naturally there's going to be a sequel. And there is the sequel where Indiana Jones gets his hands on this drawing of Sheba and goes looking for the Shankara stones. One of which was stolen from the village that we see at the beginning of the movie. But the 3 stones, when brought together, they glow and they create a sense of energy, and they are used by those honoring the goddess Sheba, and so that takes place there in Pankot Palace, and Indiana Jones does get the stones, and he is able to retrieve them, take them back to the village. Now, then we get to the third movie. And the third movie, we get to meet Indy's dad. We get to learn a lot more about Indy. We see River Phoenix appears as a young Indiana Jones, explaining some of the things. Where his fear of snakes come from? The cut on the lip, remember, from the whip, where he's trying to use that at the beginning. And people really responded well to that kind of thing. In that movie, of course, they go searching for the cup of Christ, the Holy Grail. That you have. Indy's dad ships him his Grail diary, and then Indy mistakenly brings it back with him to Nazi Germany, where his dad says that line I just love: "I should have sent it to Marx Brothers." But still, Indy completes his dad's task. His dad had started a rubbing from a stone tablet that was found. That was supposed to be one of the 2 markers, and then Indy completes the rubbing when he finds he finds the knight's tomb under Venice, and he's able to finish the rubbing and complete this, and so is able then to use the information from that map and what Dad had assembled in his Grail diary to pursue searching for the cup of Christ. I'm trying to gently fold my little piece of paper here back down. I don't want it to get messed up, but he's able to then go find the cup of a carpenter, the actual cup of Christ. Don't ask me how I got my hands on this. Shh. But so he's able to do that, and that's the third movie, and people loved it. It was great, and then it was done. The problem is, of course, when you have a big movie like that, still you want to keep things going, and so there was talk about maybe doing another movie, and it floundered and floundered for a while. In the meantime, a TV show is put together by George Lucas, directed by Steven Spielberg. They're all the players are still involved with it, called The Young Indiana Jones Chronicles. This is how old it is. It is a VHS videotape. That's right, boys and girls. Now, this is only one episode out of that series, but this takes me to the point that I was making before about old Indiana Jones, because we know that Indy lives to be at least into his 90s if you go by the timeline of the original series of the Young Indiana Jones Chronicles that aired on television, because in those episodes, every one of them was introduced, or bookended, I should say, introduced and closed, kind of the way I do my front porch stuff, by old Indy in his 90s, played by an actor named George Hall. Now, in those sequences, we see that Indy at some point in time his right eye has been injured because now he wears an eye patch. He wears his glasses all the time, but he's still dressed in his tweed jacket and stuff. But he lives with his daughter, a daughter named Sophie, and she has children. So Indy has his grandchildren there too. And some of the episodes, the book ending is him telling his grandchildren stories. Other episodes are old Indy running into other people or encountering a situation that causes him to recount or remember a scenario. Now, there was one episode for a ratings boost that they did bring in Harrison Ford, and he played Indiana Jones in the 50s, a book ending talking about his college days in Chicago was the actual episode. But all the episodes featured either Indy as a young teenager or as a young boy. And you got to see more about his parents, his dad and his mom. And a lot of the stories that are referenced, that Indy drops references to during the movies that we see, then are things that we actually got to see those stories unfold. We got to see a lot of things about that. So I really like that show, and I liked the old Indy inserts in there. And I liked learning more about Indy's background as well. You know, like in the beginning part of Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, that's where we find that Indy actually bases his outfit off of a grave robber. The whole ensemble, right down to the hat, which is a gift from the grave robber guy. That's where we learned that's where Indy got his style from. And so we learn all this about Indy during those shows. Those are great. But I also liked the old Indy in the future. And so when people are saying now, well, Harrison Ford, he's too old to do that, I'm like, well, excuse me, but we saw old Indy. We saw old Indy in the show. The problem is George Lucas. George Lucas has this reputation for fiddling around with his creations. He did it with Star Wars, couldn't leave it alone. He had to keep remastering and redoctoring and editing and creating new special effects as the technology. He couldn't just leave it alone and say, that was really good what I did. No. He had to keep doctoring it up and tweaking it, much to the annoyance of a lot of fans. Well, he did the same thing to Indiana Jones. See, when they were then gearing up to do the fourth movie, or there was talk even about doing the fourth movie, and this had come out in that in-between time, this series, well, then they start saying, well, wait a minute. Now we've kind of backed ourselves into a corner, because with old Indy, we know that he has an injury that happens. We know he has a daughter. We know a whole lot about Indy's future that we're now kind of constrained and tied to in our movies going forward. And George Lucas says, no, I have a way to fix that. He re-releases the episodes that were the Young Indiana Jones Chronicles and repackages them. So he actually stitches together several episodes into more TV movie kind of things and strips out the bookends of old Indy, of George Hall's old Indiana Jones. And in doing so, basically retcons and erases old Indy from the picture. If you go out to Amazon now and you can order the entire series of Young Indiana Jones on Amazon, it will not have old Indy on it. It will have the one with Harrison Ford because it's Harrison Ford, but George Hall's old Indy, not there. And which I think is really sad, and I really wish they would release a de-Lucased version. They would release the original series with George Hall's old Indiana Jones. But we get to the fourth movie, which people didn't like because of, aliens, because, with the crystal skull, look into the eyes of the alien, and it's, this interdimensional alien. I didn't have a problem with it. Why did I not have a problem with it? Well, let's look at this for a minute. Remember I said Indiana Jones based off the 30s and 40s serials, looking for old treasure that leads to things. Even though there would not have been something with Sheba probably in those serials, although there could have been, but would not have been treated very respectfully, would have been very cliche oriented. But so those things fit kind of like that. But by the time we got to the search for the Holy Grail, things were starting to shift, and there's a whole lot of it. The Nazis were brought back in. We even see Hitler in that movie because we're moving into the mid 40s. We're moving from the 30s into the mid 40s. So by the time we see the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, the makers, the producers of the movie decided they wanted to bring Indiana Jones along as well and continue this evolution of his film style. And now they moved him to the 50s. The film styles in the 50s, you go back and look, film styles, there were a lot of glorified science fiction. Aliens visiting, they were about radiation, atomic bomb testing, making large bugs and monsters like that. This was the kind of stuff that weighed on people's minds, was the atomic potential for atomic war and the impacts it would have environmentally. Well, so then we come to Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, and they borrow heavily from what the movies in the 50s are doing about aliens, radiation, and big bugs. And so I don't have any problem with how that worked out. It worked out just fine, I thought. I liked the movie. The only thing I didn't like was Mutt Williams, who turns out to be Indy's son, because I'm thinking back to these shows and old Indiana Jones talking, with his daughter and all this kind of stuff. And I'm like, son, where does this son come from? And where's his daughter? This is where his daughter should be. We find out after the fact that Shia LaBeouf, who played Mutt, and I did not like his portrayal either, and I'm glad that he's not returning for this next movie. In fact, I hope we find out that Mutt died. Really, seriously, I think we got to scrub that character from the mythos. With his portrayal of that and some of the stuff they had Mutt doing was just a silliness, and so I felt like they really stretched credibility with the father-son thing they tried to do there, and I just wish they hadn't done it. I wish it would have been the daughter. I wish it would have been Sophie. That would have made a lot more sense. But there's a couple of things that have come out. One was that originally they did think about doing the daughter thing, but they were afraid that if they did the daughter thing, then people would connect it back to this, and they'd be right back. George Lucas didn't want them to be right back trapped with the farther down the road stuff they had created, in case they still wanted to do even more movies. They didn't want to be tied to the future that they had already portrayed, which again I think is silly, because it was perfectly fine future. But anyway, they just also wanted to try to queue up a successor, someone to take over the mantle. Now, Harrison Ford, same thing, has gone on record saying he doesn't think anybody else should play Indiana Jones other than him. I agree. At least as a grown adult. I don't think they should reboot the franchise and start over with a different actor playing the character. I don't think that's what should happen. I don't have any problem with them still revisiting and showing us younger Indiana Jones. Again, like I said, I really like seeing River Phoenix show us why he's afraid of snakes, how he got the cut, and as I said, the ensemble. There was the guy who he sees him stealing the cross of Coronado. He and his buddies digging. Well, I mean, basically doing the same thing Indiana Jones now does. But they're gonna take it and not take it to a museum. They're gonna give it to a private guy who has hired these people to do this. But when Indiana Jones loses to this guy, the guy says, you lost today, kid, but that doesn't mean you have to accept it. And he actually gives him the hat. But the guy's dressed like this. This is the way he looks. And so then when Indiana Jones assumes that persona where he's going out, where he's not in the classroom lecturing, but he's going out and doing his stuff with his whip and with everything else, he assumes that image of that guy that gave him that example. So I think it's really cool to have that put in there. But personally, I am excited for the upcoming movie. I do not think Harrison Ford is too old, and I don't think it's bad for us to see Indy too old. I really still wish George Lucas had not knocked the legs out from under the young Indiana Jones Chronicles, because if he would have left that intact, if he would have left George Hall's portrayal of old Indy in here, it'd be so much easier to tell people, hey, back off, because we know Indy is going to get old. We know this is where he's going to. I think it makes a lot more sense that way, me personally. But anyway, so now we're going to have this new Indiana Jones movie coming out, and there is a female in it with him. Now, it's not his daughter. We're told that the female character is his goddaughter. That's actually Marcus Brody's daughter. Now, we don't know much about her character, what she's like, but now people are grumbling that, so they're trying to set up to turn Indiana Jones into a woman. They're going to make it so she's the one who carries the mantle from him, and now she'll be a female Indiana Jones. I don't know if that's going to be the case or not. I don't know. There's a good chance this will be Indiana Jones's last outing with Harrison Ford wearing the fedora. But you never know. Never say never. Never say never again, as Sean Connery would say. But here's the thing that I think is the most interesting about this. Anybody could assume the mantle from this point forward. Not be Indiana Jones, but still do that. Indiana Jones didn't create this look. He took it from someone who influenced him when he was impressionable. Dr. Jones has taught who knows how many classes in his college and has influenced those young minds of mush and has influenced them. Who's to say that one of them doesn't step forward and try to be an explorer, an archaeologist like he has, could assume the same persona. Wouldn't call themselves Indiana Jones, they have to call themselves something else, but could still carry on that mantle. And there's no reason that the goddaughter of Marcus Brody couldn't be a person who does exactly that. Maybe not this exact look, maybe the exact look. I don't know. But the point being, Indiana Jones can go on and on and on. And those of you who poo-poo and say Harrison Ford is too old, on you. He is not too old. He will do just fine because they're not writing the story as if Indiana Jones is still back at the first movie. They keep aging Indy to go along with what we see him doing. And so it will work perfectly fine. He will be okay. And also, for those of you who poo-poo the alien one or are wondering about how it's going to work with this new one, all this kind of stuff, I would just like to point out, before you're saying this one was unbelievable. Really? Okay, so the Ark of the Covenant being found and then it being used to eviscerate an army of Nazi soldiers by ghosts that fly out of it. That was believable to you. 3 stones that would allow a guy, when they're all brought together, would allow a guy to literally reach into another man's chest, pull his heart out, and the heart, while beating in his chest, the man stays alive, so that as you drop him down into a volcano to sacrifice him, he's screaming and terrifying, still alive, even while the bad guy is holding his chest. Oh, and then the heart catches on fire in his hand while the man is falling into the volcano. That's totally believable. And then, of course, you've got the Holy Grail. which not only grants immortality, but allows a knight to live over 600 years, and during that time build some absolutely unbelievable complex traps to take people through. That's all totally believable, but oh boy, interdimensional aliens, well, that's where we draw the line. What? That's just silliness. That's nonsense. I'm looking forward to what's coming up in the next chapter here as well. I honestly hope it's not the last. I hope that Indy puts the fedora on one more time. But even if he doesn't, I don't care. I like all of these. I like these. I like the books. I think Indiana Jones is awesome, as you can tell by all the stuff I have. And I don't care whether you agree with me or not. All right, well, that's enough for me and my stubble. Looks like the sun is going down, which is interesting because that's the way they're describing the next Indiana Jones movie, is that it is a hero at sunset. Well, here I am, hero at sunset, with my stubble, with my whip, with my, well, actually, I should probably say with Dad's Grail diary. Here, I should, as we conclude this episode, I will conclude it reviewing the things in Dad's diary. Oh, you know what? I didn't bring out my reading glasses. Indiana Jones wears them now. Well, I guess I'll look at this later. And so with that, this hero will gaze off into the sunset, and I'll see you all next time from my front porch.